What is going on, kids? Thank you for joining me on this Saturday, April 13th, 2019, here on Sports Corner College on Mercado Airwaves. I want to thank you so much, and I appreciate you for you guys joining me on this weekend. It's been a busy day, and I decided to just go ahead and crack up the mic and microphone and camera, and let's go ahead and talk some sports. So while we actually were at the radio station earlier on today, the Eastern Conference playoffs started. So I thought we can make it official, and we'll start making our picks right here. For sure, you know I'm going to get a bunch of stuff wrong. So I thought at least this way you guys can make fun of me in that case. So we'll jump right into it, into the Eastern Conference. You have Milwaukee as the 1 seed and Detroit in the 8 seed. I'm going to go with Milwaukee in this one. So I have Milwaukee moving on forward. In the 4 or 5 matchup between the Boston Celtics and Indianapolis Pacers, I'm going to go with the... You know what? I'll tell you one thing. If Oladipo was healthy, I would go with the Pacers, but I'm going to go with Boston in this one. So I think Boston moves on in this one. We actually just saw this earlier that the Brooklyn Nets just beat the Philadelphia 76ers. So I actually was going with Philly in this series. I'm going to stick with Philly in this series. But, watch out for Brooklyn. And just goes to show that Toronto, that Philadelphia team is a mess right now. And Toronto and Orlando in the 2-7 matchup. I'm going to go with Toronto on that one. So we move on to the conference semis. I have Milwaukee against Boston. I'm going to go on with Milwaukee in that one, especially if they're able to get healthy. And then in the 3 versus 2 matchup, I have Philly versus Toronto in the conference semis. I'm going to go with Toronto moving on into that one. And in the conference finals, I have Milwaukee beating Toronto, getting to the NBA finals, and Giannis possibly having a chance to win the MVP and NBA championship. But in the Western Conference, in the 1-8 between the Golden State Warriors and the LA Clippers, I have Golden State moving on. I think Kevin Durant's hitting his stride, so that team's going to be hard to beat. In the 4-5 matchup, a really interesting one between Joker and Harden in this one, I'm going to go with Houston. But the fact that Houston has to play the Golden State Warriors so early, you know, I've had this theory about Golden State is – usually in fights or in those type of scenarios, you want to catch somebody early. Now, that's always the narrative somebody wants to tell you. But I have the opposite theory of Golden State. I feel like you want to catch them as late as possible. You want to try to catch them with somebody rolling an ankle. You want to try to catch them, with somebody having too many technical fouls. You want to try to catch them in a Game 6, a Game 7. And, they have played a lot of basketball over the last 3 years. And they played a lot of meaningful basketball. So in that matchup between what could be Houston versus Golden State, I thought in the conference finals for sure this year, had Houston met Golden State in the conference finals, Houston would have moved on. Especially if they're playing a little bit of defense. Just a little bit. But because they're playing them so early, I'm going to go with Golden State on that one. We'll get to that in a little bit. But I think Houston gets past Utah. In the 3-6 matchup between Portland and Oklahoma City, this one's pretty fun too because you have obviously Dame versus Russ. And, I guess in this one I'm going to go with OKC. Paul George early on in the season, an MVP candidate. It kind of slowed down in the end. Russ always an MVP candidate, former winner, triple-double machine. Again, this is a team that I think they're going to be kind of poised for a big run in the conference just because they don't have to match up with Houston early or Golden State. But I like Portland too. And you talk about two teams that have such unique home court advantages. But I'm going to go with OKC in this one for them moving forward. And then the 2-7, Denver versus San Antonio. San Antonio doesn't go anywhere, but I'm going to go with Denver in this one. And I think I said Joker in Utah. I'm actually interested to see Donovan Mitchell and James Harden. Joker here against LaMarcus Aldridge. And I don't know. I guess for this one, I'm going to go with Denver. But again, like Pop, like in this type of a series, like we'll see. But again, like this is not the same San Antonio team we've seen over the last few years. But moving on to the next round, Golden State versus Houston. Again, I thought this had the chance to be a conference final. So I thought the NBA champion was coming out of this series itself, but it's coming around early. I'm going to go Golden State in this one. Golden State just too much power, too much firepower, and if somehow Boogie Cousins finds his role on this team in this playoff run like he kind of has, they're going to be dangerous. They're going to be very dangerous, like always. And in the series between the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Denver Nuggets, I'm going to move on with OKC. And that leads us to an Oklahoma City Thunder versus a Golden State Warriors conference finals. This one's going to be entertaining. I think this one goes probably like 6 games. But again, you tell me. I'm trying to make this as compelling as possible. Who beats Golden State and how? Because if we get to the finals I predicted in the beginning of the season, and I'm predicting on the show right now between the Milwaukee Bucks and the Golden State Warriors, who wins it? And I picked Boston. Just goes to show what kind of tailspin Boston has gone through. But I think it doesn't matter. I'm going with there's only 4 contenders in the Eastern Conference, and I'm going with the guy who's probably going to the MVP, who has the best team built around him with like Nikola Mirotic and Middleton and Sexton that is in Milwaukee. I'm going to go with that. But it doesn't matter. Pick any team from the Eastern Conference. Unless you catch Golden State with an injury, you're not going to beat them. And I thought the perfect scenario would be for the Houston Rockets to get them in the conference finals after a long playoff push. It's not going to be that way. Now, perhaps Houston and Golden State go through a slug out. Hell, we saw last year, had Chris Paul not get injured, and then they would have won that. They could have won that Game 7 and gone to the NBA Finals. So I think it's pretty simple. I think the Golden State Warriors win the NBA Finals in 5 games against the Milwaukee Bucks. And actually stick with us on our social media. You can see my old picks that we did for the beginning of the season. We did them, I think, on October 12th. And I was way off when it came to the standings. It was just a crazy NBA season. But we'll definitely keep our eyes out and break down all the playoff games as we continue on. But we also had some news coming out of the United Center, and that had to do with the Bulls. So this is Cody Westerlund from 670 The Score. This was after Bulls Executive Vice President John Paxson's press conference for the offseason. And, you're seeing right here on the screen, Boylen's under a contract for 2019-2020 with about a $1 million of a $1.6 million deal already guaranteed, according to the ESPN report. This is coming off ownership. Paxson has already approached ownership about committing to Boylen on a long-term contract. Paxson said it's the team's end-of-season press conference Thursday afternoon. It's very possible, Paxson said, when asked if the Bulls will extend Boylen before the start of next season. It is very possible. In fact, I've spoken to both Jerry Reinsdorf and Michael Reinsdorf about addressing that, and I don't know what the timing will be. But I envision Jim being our coach here and us committing to him, yes. And then it continues on. What I've seen is his ability to show these guys he generally cares about them, Paxson said. His goal is to get them better as individuals. I'm the first to admit the first week was like a dynamite blowing up. It was a rocky week. What I've seen since then is a guy who embraces the challenge. He embraces the individuals he's coaching. He really does view himself as a teacher. A guy who wants to connect with players. Sometimes you have to be demanding and hard. I still believe that you can demand as much as a head coach as long as you show these guys what they are doing is because you care about them and you want them to succeed. All players want to succeed. I'm just confident, and we'll get back to that in just a little bit. But where did the Bulls get good? What growth have you seen on this Bulls team? To me, Lauri Markkanen, other than that really nice February he had, took a step back. Some are going to say it's injury, fine. Zach LaVine and Lauri Markkanen cannot play together. They do not have chemistry together. Chris Dunn is a backup point guard, maybe, on certain teams in the NBA. Now, mind you, disclaimer, like we always do in the show, we're talking about the realm of where these guys are in their line of sports. They're all great basketball players, but in the NBA context. There's the where growth that this team have. And the frustrating thing is, what was the hurry? That's the one thing that this Bulls team likes to do, and we'll see it. In the 4.5 months Jim has been the head coach, he and I have had more dialogue together about everything than I had with any other guys probably combined. There's been a rhythm to it. He's receptive to a lot we talk about. So basically, he's a puppet. That's what you're saying. Advisor, Doug Collins, has been terrific for him. They communicate all the time, and Doug's wisdom and expertise as a coach has been really valuable. I've seen some really good things. It goes back to what I see in this building every day and what I see on the road and how he's approaching situations. Nobody's perfect. You mean like having a team mutiny and having them do practice after a back-to-back. I rub people the wrong way sometimes in this office. Jim is going to rub the players the wrong way sometimes. Phil Jackson rub players the wrong way. The great ones do. So you're saying he's great like Phil Jackson. We're going to try to build something here with him as our coach, and I'm confident of that right now. We're at a really good place with our head coach and the direction we're headed, Paxson said. Your direction is with luck. It's luck. Like, again, imagine a CEO, a president of a multi-billion-dollar tech company coming out and telling you they like where their future's heading because they're hoping by a thing of a coin flip that they'll be able to get a break. Are you kidding me? This team had no idea. The one thing that they got right that you could play either way is the Otto Porter thing. They got a player that helped them win a couple of games they shouldn't have won. Fine. But they also did kind of scout the free agent market and got ahead of it. Cool. Kudos to them. They are a better team with Otto Porter. You got to give them that. Where does he fit on this team, though? Who's the starting lineup on this team if you don't get Zion? What if somehow you don't get the 1 or 2 pick? Sit RJ Barrett? Is it Cam Reddish? Is it one of the Euro players? Like that's the thing about this front office that's the most frustrating is the spin. It's always, and I get it, right? They're all like that. But in a city that has the refreshing kind of takes that you get with Theo Epstein and Jed Hoyer with the Cubs, and even a little bit with Kenny and Rick Hahn, whatever they're doing at the Advocate Center is crazy. I have no idea what they're doing. No idea what the game plan is for this team moving forward. And the thing is, they get wins too, though, as a front office. And I've said it on the show before. They put little wins together, little wins, so that when their backs are against their wall, they could get the scapegoat, and they have just enough clout that they can get away with it. And we know the Reinsdorfs don't fire anybody. It's all ancillary. It's kind of like the same thing that's going on with the Lakers. It is unbelievable how identical the Lakers situation is to the Bulls situation, minus the fact that the Lakers at least have LeBron James. But it's talking about two organizations that always hire within, have no foresight or scouting ability outside of their own company to look for somebody to run that team. That's what's going to happen. You know, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Look at where we're at. 1998 was a long time ago. You got lucky with the number 1 pick with Derrick Rose. You got to get lucky again now. And here's the thing, that report that came on The Athletic, that players do not like Jim Boylen around the league. And here's the thing, you can talk all you want. John Paxson does this all the time. Perception is this, perception is that, but that's not reality. Perception is reality. And if these guys don't want to come to your team, then you have to get lucky. And then it all has to work out. Now, let me ask you this. You're going to extend Jim Boylen. You don't know who you're going to draft yet. You haven't gotten your draft pick. So what if you get Zion Williamson? You're telling me right now that Jim Boylen is the guy you want to develop Zion? With John Morant? That's who you want to develop them? Come on. I mean, that's the thing, too. I'm supposed to trust these guys that told us they're going to try to get young and athletic. They bring in Dwayne Wade and Rajon Rondo. They draft Denzel Valentine with no knees. What are we doing here? It makes no sense. And here's the thing. It doesn't matter. Nobody's going to get fired. Nobody's going to go anywhere. So that's my thoughts. Let me know all over social media on Twitter at mmercado2333, on YouTube at youtube.com/MikeMercado2333, on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves, on Twitter at Mercado Airwaves. Let me know what you think about this front office, where the Bulls are moving forward. and also your thoughts on the NBA playoffs. I have the Milwaukee Bucks meeting the Golden State Warriors in the NBA Finals, although my preseason pick was Boston versus Golden State. Giannis was my pick of MVP. You can actually, we're going to search back and repost that picture we did in late October. But what else do we got today, guys? Cubs and Sox both lost, so that was pretty entertaining. If you were watching the Cubs game with a comeback by Kyle Schwarber, will move forward the White Sox first, dropping to 4-9, losing to the Yankees at 0-4. And Eloy Jimenez had 2 home runs yesterday, so shout out to our boy Eloy. But yeah, the Cubs, again, here's the thing about the Cubs too. We knew their offense was going to be there. And Pacoda told us, it's not like the analytics didn't tell us their pitching staff was going to be bad. But the killer of it all is when we see that Forbes article come out and talk about the Cubs are the 3rd most wealthiest team in baseball, and they had no money for the offseason. Yeah, the team that got lit up last year that dropped the divisional lead, that lost a 1-game playoff, and then the wild card game, yeah, that team that you didn't add on to didn't get any better. And maybe Chris Bryant isn't hurt, but he's not playing well. And maybe his best season is behind him. And that's, Cub fans, I know you don't want to hear this, but if Chris Bryant's best season in his career was 2015, 2016, and a little bit of 17, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. That's the truth. Like, this doesn't go anywhere without Chris Bryant. And the real question is, do you pay him now? What if he comes to you and he says, I'll sign for $250, 10 years, $250 right now? Do you sign him? I don't know. Is there any guarantees about that shoulder? They didn't do surgery on it. It was rehab. Now, he says he's fine. The team says he's fine. I'm just throwing it out there as a potential reality that if Chris Bryant is not as great as he was when he won the MVP, when they won the World Series, they will not win another one. Shout out to Jose Quintana, who was a stopper for them a few nights ago, too. But this pitcher rotation, other than Cole Hamels, Kyle Hendricks cannot get past these bats. John Lester is hurt. Cole Hamels is 45 years old. Good-looking man, though. Shout out to him. No bullpen. And there's no help coming. Honestly. Kimbrel make you that much better? What this team needs a Jacob deGrom. They need a fireball throwing ace, and they don't have one. They have a lot of good pieces. Yu Darvish is in it. Sorry, guys. I'm not giving up on him. I'm not going to say he's a bust, but he's a bust for that contract. Shout out to Jason Hayward, who's having a really nice beginning of the season, too, who we give a lot of crap to. But, of course, we'll talk about that and so much more. But we also want to get into the UFC 236 card that is happening tonight on ESPN pay-per-view. And is headlined by Max Holloway, Dustin Poirier, and Kelvin Gastelum and Israel Adesanya. We actually talked with Kelvin Gastelum here on Mercado Airwaves. So before we make our picks, we're going to go ahead and jump into our interview with Kelvin. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. We'll see you in just a little bit. Hello and welcome in, friends, to Mercado Airwaves. I'm your host, Mike Mercado, and want to thank you so much for making us a part of your day. Joining us is our special guest. He is in the co-main event at UFC 236 for the UFC Middleweight Championship. It is the one and only Kelvin Gastelum. We talk about the UFC 236, staying positive, how to use negativity as motivation, the fallout from his canceled fight against Robert Whittaker, and so much more. Kelvin was an awesome guest, so I hope you guys enjoy our conversation. But before we get to Kelvin, here is a quick message. What's up, friends? Mike here from Mercado Airwaves. If you missed any one of our past interviews with amazing guests like future Hall of Famer and pound for pound best fighter in the world, UFC flyweight champion Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson,
another day at the office, I get to go out there and test my skill.
To award-winning producer, director, and actor Orlando Jones. Orlando, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, sir. I'm good, brother. How you doing?
And all the other interesting guests we've had on. Joining us today is director and writer David Ferrier.
Thanks so much, brother. I appreciate you having me on the show.
MMA legend Chael Sonnen joins us today.
Keep listening to your show. This is great. Thanks, my friend.
Just subscribe to us on iTunes at Mercado Airwaves. And while you're there, please like, review, and rate us, friends. It helps so much. We also have a Patreon for anyone who would like to support the show. Just visit us at at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves and see how you can get all of our interviews ad-free and before anyone else, and how you can get your business or company spotlighted on the show. Follow us on Twitter at mmercado2333. Like us on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. Subscribe to us on YouTube. You guys are listening to our interview with Kelvin Gastelum. He's in the co-main event of UFC 236 tonight on pay-per-view. Enjoy. Thanks for listening and all the support.
Enjoy our shows? Follow the Mercado Airwaves crew all over social media. Like us on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. On Instagram, Nicole is at Typing When Tipsy. Alex is at Mercado2121. Mike is at Mike Mercado2333. And our true crime show is at Murder Mysteries and More. And on Twitter, Nicole is at Typing When Tipsy. Alex is at Mercado21Alex. And Mike is at MMercado2333. You can follow the network at Mercado Airwaves. Follow our pop culture show on Twitter at Good Brothers Pod. Get us on the go by downloading our programs anywhere you get your favorite podcast, like iTunes, SoundCloud, Podbean, Stitcher, and other popular sites. Just search us at Mercado Airwaves. While you're at it, please like, rate, review, and share us with your friends. Visit us on youtube.com/Mercado2333. Click the subscribe and like button to get notified every time a new episode or interview is posted. Support Mercado Airwaves by visiting patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves, the home of our interviews with athletes and celebrities, which you can get ad-free and early before it's released to the public. Come play video games with us on Twitch. Twitch.tv/Mercado Airwaves Network. Mercado Airwaves is powered by Munch Art Design. Like them on Facebook at Munch Art Design. Voiceover work on Mercado Airwaves is performed by Josh Fox.
Thank you for keeping with us. Here is our interview with UFC superstar Kelvin Gastelum. Enjoy.
Hello, Mike.
Kelvin, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. Thank you, my man.
Man, thank you so much for taking some time for us. I know you're a little busy, with, trying to win the middweight title of the world in UFC, but thank you for taking some time for us, man. How you feeling heading into this big weekend against Israel and what is just a dope card that I think just kind of came up and really is kicking off this summer on fire?
Yeah, man. I mean, the UFC does a great job. I think this is a fight that nobody thought they would want to see, and everybody wants to see these fights. So I'm excited for the card myself. Like, I'm a fan myself, so I can't help but be excited.
Well, yeah, and that's what I wanted to get into is, you do have this love for it, and, this is something that I try to explain to a lot of people, the difference between this sport and so many different professional ones is everybody was so hyped, man, and I could see it, we all could see it in you and Robert's eyes a few months back when we thought this thing was going to go down, that fight, and when everything kind of broke out the way it did because of the injury. For somebody like you who's so damn competitive but so good, and you try to keep your head straight on, how tough was that to move forward with? Because I know you wanted that fight just as bad as you want this fight, but then you also have to look forward and be like, well, what's the next chapter? What's the next step? What's the next challenge? And here we are. Like, what was that mindset and challenge those last few months, man?
Yeah, man, it was pretty heartbreaking, what had happened in February, but and then it was just days after that we're like a roller coaster, you just kind of felt lost. I felt very uneasy, on the edge. But, as you said, I'm a guy that kind of keeps my emotions and my thoughts pretty leveled out for the most part. And, it was hard to get remotivated. It was hard to get my body remotivated and my mind reset, for this next challenge.
When you're so damn competitive and you love it so damn much, and then that does happen, but then that challenge of, okay, you do have to now reset yourself for the middleweight title. And it is against somebody like Israel, this guy that has a lot of momentum and hype. Hell, you were that guy against Robert. You guys are just these dominant figures that are on this collision course. That must have been unimaginable to get back into that mindset.
It really was, man. And like I was saying, it was just so hard to get remotivated and kind of have my mind reset and my body reset to kind of do it all over again. And not only that, we were focusing on a completely different person, body type, skill set. Like it was hard to reset the mind and the body and the spirit. But, we got over that hump, and here we are, 1,000% ready to win this fight.
And how excited are you that it is against somebody who kind of is having that same trajectory of they're trying to cement their flag? Like, we know what this is. We know that there's always the incentive of the cash and the incentive of the title itself and what it brings with. But that idea of competition, that you can beat the dude that's trying to sing the same claim as you, who thinks that he's on that he's done enough as you are. And we're talking about two badass dudes. Like, I'm out here just, hyping up this dope fight that doesn't need any hyping. But that must, as a competitor, that fire must be so awesome that, we don't get to experience in everyday life. Like, how is that when you guys are at the gym with the team being like, yo, this is going to be something you're talking about 10 years later when they're watching ESPN+.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's exciting. It's exciting for a lot of reasons, and I'm excited to be the first loss on Israel's career in MMA. And, not only that, I get to win the title on top of that. So I'm super ecstatic for this fight.
And with the sport now being on ESPN, and we know, we've all we love it. We love combat sports, what it brings to it. But for somebody like you who, we're the same age, so that idea of if you win, if and when you win, you're going to be the headline of SportsCenter that very night. That, what is that like? What is that? I know we don't like to think forward, and that's what makes you guys these professionals, but let's just play a little pretend for a little bit, just for a second here. Let's fanboy out. That idea of being on SportsCenter, man, that's pretty cool.
It is very cool, man, and I don't even know how to describe it, but it's not something I really think about, to be honest. All I'm thinking about is just getting my hand raised and getting that belt around my waist. But everything else is just a cherry on top, I guess. It is cool to think about now that you mentioned it, and man, I can't wait for Sunday morning. It's going to be all over the news.
So for all the fans who, here in Chicago that love watching it, watched you in Tough, obviously saw the whole journey between you and Robert, and now we're at this point with you in Israel. Can you we see the outcome, that moment, and I was talking to Kamaru Usman a few weeks back before his fight against Tyron, and we kind of talked about that the fans get to see the glory moment, whether it's a win or a loss, that glory moment of you're in the octagon. But for the fans here in Chicago who don't get to see all the embeddeds and all those awesome videos they do on YouTube, can you kind of just, what is it like the week, the camp leading into it? How important is it to make sure you have the right team around you, that you're being diligent? Hell, we just saw what happened to TJ just a few days ago. You're being diligent about what you're eating, how you're exercising, whether you're hurt or you're injured. Kind of that training camp. Can you explain it a little bit to the people here in Chicago?
Yeah, I think it's crucial. It's very important to have, a great group of team around you and people that, not only are in it for monetary reasons, but also, they just genuinely care about you, your career, and don't have their own personal agenda, Obviously, there's a business aspect to it, but ultimately what really matters and carries through is having people that genuinely care about you, and I think I've done that. I've surrounded myself with the right people and with the right team, and thankfully it's a lot of smart individuals in my group, and it's a group effort. It's an individual sport, but at the same time it's a group effort. I don't get inside of that octagon without my team.
Kelvin, before we get you out of here, I know you have a busy day, and you're going to do an amazing job repping the division, the sport, yourself, everybody, man, and we really appreciate you taking some time. And I want to hit on this before we plug everything. Positivity and negativity, man, is one of the things that I appreciate about you, is that you embrace the negativity in a way where you're not allowing any type of negative or troll person to take control of the situation, but you also allow positivity in you. And I know it's hard to, show everybody that, the love for showing you the positivity, but how important is it for you as somebody who's on this journey and so close to the mountaintop? And hell, I'm going to say you've been on the mountaintop, man. You've done something that you and all the men and women in that sport have done stuff that nobody else can do. But that next step in your field, how important is it to embrace the positivity and acknowledge the negativity, but embrace the positivity just as importantly?
Yeah, when you have half the world telling you can't do this, you can't do that, you're too small for the division, you have to be stubborn, you have to be thick-skinned, and you have to really just kind of look at the positive of things when there's so much negative coming at you, and that's always been my case. On top of that, I've just always been an optimistic person. It's just in my DNA, and that's just the way I am. I always like to look at the positive things. I don't dwell on the negatives. I think it's a waste of time. I think it's a waste of energy. I think it's a waste of your thoughts. And so I love looking at the positive in every situation, whether it's bad or worse.
Kelvin, you're the best, man. You are truly a gentleman of the sport, and it's really cool of you to join us here in Chicago for a few minutes in such a big week. Everybody, make sure you're following him on Twitter at Kelvin Gastelum, and then on Instagram at KGastelum. And obviously, I don't have to say this if you are an MMA fan, you already know this, but people in Chicago, if you're looking for something fun this weekend and the weather is bad, especially if the weather is bad, think about this. 2 title fights. And you have Max and Dustin in what's going to be a barn burner. But what's going to steal the show, Kelvin Gastelum, Israel Adesanya. I cannot wait to see what you do, brother, because Robert, I'm going to be honest with you, Robert's one of our friends of the show, and we love him, but we picked you in that fight, so I think this is a long time coming for you, brother, and the floor is yours, man. You deserve it. Chicago's listening. Kelvin, before you get out of here to go win that gold and steal the show, what you have anything for the people here in Chi-City?
No, man, I actually really enjoy Chicago, man. I love Chicago. The last few times that I've been there, I just have a great time, and I hope to be there in June for the big UFC coming up. So I'll see you guys then.
Bring the gold, and we'll bring the gold, and we'll get you some pizza, man. It'll be a nice picture for you.
Nice. That sounds like a plan. Done deal.
All right, brother. Good health, good luck, man. Kick some ass. All right.
Take care, man.
A huge thank you and good luck to Kelvin Gastelum for joining us on the show. You can catch him at UFC 236, Holloway versus Poirier 2, Max Holloway versus Dustin Poirier 2, Kelvin Gastelum versus Israel Adesanya for the UFC middleweight championship. It's going to be one hell of a card. You can get it live on ESPN Plus pay-per-view this Saturday, April 13th at the State Farm Arena in Atlanta, Georgia. Tickets are still available at Ticketmaster.com or in person at the State Farm Arena box office. Once again, thank you to Kelvin for joining us. Thank you to the awesome people in NYC for setting this up. And of course, thank you to the UFC. But most importantly, thank you for joining us on this special interview here on Mercado Airwaves. Please make sure you guys are following us all over the universe. I'm on Twitter at mmercado2333. I'm on Instagram at MikeMercado2333. Like us on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. You can follow the network on Twitter at Mercado Airwaves. We're on YouTube, youtube.com/MikeMercado2333. Download, like, rate, review any one of our All right, kiddos. So that was our interview with Kelvin Gastelum. He's going to steal the show at UFC 236 with Israel Adesanya, Max Holloway, Dustin Poirier. It's going to be a hell of a card. But we should start making our picks for UFC 236. And we'll start off with, I guess with St. Peru versus Nikita Krylov. I'll go with St. Peru. How about Alan Juban versus Dwight Grant? I will go with Alan Juban. Eric Anders, our guy, versus Kali Rountree. I will go with Eric Anders. And in the co-main events for the UFC middleweight title, it is Kelvin Gastelum versus Israel Adesanya. I will go with our guy, Kelvin Gastelum. I think Israel's a hell of a fighter. It's going to be a hell of a fight. And it's a hell of a card because in the lightweight championship fight, it is Max Holloway versus Dustin Poirier. The second time they're going at it, Dustin Poirier beat Max Holloway the first time they went and fought. I'm going to go with Max Holloway. He is maybe the pound-for-pound best fighter on the planet right now. But the fact that Kelvin Gastelum and Israel Adesanya, Dustin Poirier, Max Holloway are all going to be on the same card, and everybody made weight, everybody's healthy, is awesome. But if you missed our interview with Kelvin Gastelum or any one of our other interviews, guys, we've had people on like Becky Lynch, Orlando Jordan. We've had on, not Orlando Jordan, Orlando Jones. Orlando Jordan was a wrestler. I'm a nerd. I'm still in WrestleMania mode. But Becky Lynch has been on the show. Hell, she main evented WrestleMania. We've also had on Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson. You know, I didn't realize this. We had Eddie Alvarez on the show 3 different times. It's pretty crazy. Ryan Bader has been on the show. We've had Uriah Faber. We've had TJ Dillashaw, who's been on the news. He's been on the show. We've had Diego Lama. We've had so many awesome people. Just go through the list wherever you get your favorite podcast. But other than that, I think that's it for us, guys. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Sports from the Couch here on Mercado Airwaves. I hope you enjoyed the rest of your weekend. Enjoy all the fights. We'll see you next time here on Mercado Airwaves. I'm Mike Mercado.